Hi class, welcome to week 4. We're almost through this semester. Yay, we're getting closer. This week in week 4, we're going to talk about phone etiquette, phone messages. So many times we talk about appearances when the patient comes in and first sees us. We should be neat and clean and all of that. But if you really think about it, when is the very first impression that a patient gets of the office? The first impression that a patient gets of the office is that very first phone call when they make that very first appointment. Now, we may not think that that is important. However, it's very important because depending on how we sound on the phone may give a perception of what the patient thinks of the office. So if we pick up our telephones and we call our friends all the time, and if we're in a bad mood and you call your friend and you're like, good morning, hi, and your friend says, whoa, what's wrong? You don't sound yourself today. That is how a perception is made. You may be feeling fine that day, but just tired. So you're going to tell your friend, I'm just tired. I'm good. And you go on with the conversation. Now, if we pick up our phone and we smile when we talk, hi, how are you? You hear the difference in your voice? That gives a different perception. I know that sometimes we go into work and it's a really busy day and we don't think about that, but it's very important because one, like I said, the patient is going to say, ooh, that person sounds like they're either not well or in a bad mood. So when we pick up our phone to talk to our patients, it's very important. The first thing you want to do is you want to say who you are, what office you are. You want to have a good greeting as well as a good tone of voice. So if I'm working at Cleveland Clinic and I say, good morning, this is Michelle, Cleveland Clinic. How can I help you? We've given a perception that we want to help that patient. They know that they've called the right place. They know who they're talking to. And you said, how can I help? That gives the perception that we are there for the patient. So that's the very first thing we need to talk about. Another thing we need to talk about with our patient, with our phone calls, is putting people on hold. If you've watched any of my tutoring sessions for week 4, I put in there a very good video about Savannah, who is a little girl whose father was in trouble and he couldn't breathe and he started to call 911, but he couldn't continue the call. So Savannah, his 5-year-old little girl, had to continue the call with 911. When we go to put somebody on hold, it's important that we ask them, can I put you on hold? Because just as Savannah's dad was in trouble, our patient could be in trouble. And I know with a lot of our robocalls, it'll say things like, if you're having an emergency, please call 911. Maybe they don't have time to call 911 and our office was on their speed dial. So we need to listen to that patient. Can I put you on hold? Be sure they're not in an emergent situation. If they are in an emergent situation, then we have to do things a little differently. We may have to get our coworker to grab another phone and call 911 for them. Some things that we might ask is, what are your symptoms? Are you home alone? Is the front door unlocked? Because if we're calling 911 for them, they need to be able to get into the house. And if they can't, we need to alert them that there's an issue with that. Another portion of our telephone calls that is important is taking proper messages. Our doctors depend on us. We are the first line of defense, should I say, for our doctors. So if we're at the phone and a patient calls in and they have a message for the doctor, or they may call in and say, I was overcharged and I need to talk to the billing department. Maybe the billing department's not in yet. We need to get all the information we can, whether it's for the billing department, whether it's for the doctor, because the more informed we are about our patients, the better we can take care of them. So if a phone call comes in and you're taking a message, you want to be sure you have things like the patient's name, the patient's phone number. What time did they call? What is their message? And take an accurate message. Write down everything they have to say. If they're calling in, one of your assignments is about Norma Washington's blood pressures, and she took the blood pressure twice a day for 3 days. You want to make sure that you have all the information and you have it correct. It's not a bad idea once you write down everything that you read it back to the patient. So a patient calls in and they want a refill on their medication, and the doctor has to approve it. Sometimes our pharmacies will do that for us, but sometimes our patients are proactive and they do it themselves. So we need to ask them, what type of medication is it? What is your dosage? How many times a day do you take it? Was it prescribed by this doctor? Our elderly sometimes have a lot of different doctors, and they may have called the wrong one. So once you get all the information, repeat it back to the patient so that you have the correct information. And then once you have all the information in your message and you've put down the patient's name, date of birth, the time they called, the date they called, who it goes to, you've made sure your message is accurate, correct. Make sure your spelling's correct on your message as well, because if you spell a medication wrong, it could cause an issue. And then you want to put that you were the one that took that message and make sure it gets to the right place. If it goes to the doctor, you may want to hand it to him or her directly. You may want to put it on their desk. There may be an inbox for that sort of thing based on your office policy. If it goes to the, say you have RNs that are in the office, if it goes to the RN, you want to make sure that the RN gets it. And if it's a message that needs responding to by that person, you definitely want to make sure that they get it, because something may happen. You're busy in the office, things are going on, and that person might not call that patient back. So it's good to just maybe remind the patient of what's going on. So in your messages and your message assignment, be sure that you have all the information in there and it's a clear, written out, concise message. Make sure that you're not putting people on hold for a long period of time. If you have multiple lines on your phone, you may get 2 or 3 calls that come in at one time. And it's okay to say, can I put you on hold? And you put them on hold and answer the other line. That is good. However, don't leave them on hold too long. I'll give you a quick example of what happened to me. I called a doctor's office. I actually help with our externship students, and one of the sites I happened to call, I needed to speak to the office manager, and it was a former student of mine. And she didn't ask who I was. She simply said, "May I put you on hold?" And boom, she put me on hold. She didn't ask. So she left me there on hold for like 5 minutes. So I hung up and I called back and I said to this former student, I knew her voice. I said, "This is Miss Morris and you left me on hold." "Oh my goodness, Miss Morris, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry." And I had to remind her I could have been a patient in distress. And she apologized and, she just did better. She just needed that little reminder. So these things happen. And while you're doing your assignment, think of these things, your tone, your pitch, how you're talking to patients. And I will see you. I have posted my link for the Thursday drop in. So I will see you on Thursday.